What's up, everybody? So, with Toy Story 4 coming out this next month in June, I have to talk about the Toy Story franchise. The Toy Story movies, all three of them, the original trilogy, is truly one of my absolute favorite set of movies ever made. Like, the first one was one of the first movies I ever watched, and I have watched my whole life like that movie and all three of them. Even though three came out later in 2010, I have watched these so many times. These are some of my absolute favorite movies, and the first one in particular, might be one of the most important movies for me because this is one of the first movies I remember watching. I remember watching this, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, and Lion King as probably my first movies, like my earliest memories of watching them. So this one has always kept a special place in my heart, and it just is an incredibly special movie. And also, this is the first fully animated CG film as well. So I really think that's so cool that I encountered this movie as a first whenever it was first, literally the first released theatrical movie. We had some CGI, or I mean, fully animated movies beforehand, like or not movies, fully animated things beforehand, like VeggieTales, which wasn't a full length movie. It was full length like episodes, like 30-minute episodes. But VeggieTales predated this, but it wasn't a movie. And this is the first actual movie that is fully 3D animated, and I think that is incredible. And also the animation, even though it's different than 2 and 3, it still holds up. It's just a different type of animation because, of course, they were working lower on a budget. They were doing this in a way where this movie could have failed, and it almost could have really failed, but it didn't. And it's just like they didn't have as much of a budget with this movie, but it still looks great. And we had not gotten a movie like this before. We have gotten stories before 1995 about toys that come to life, whether they're horror movies or whether they're like things like the Nutcracker, like stuff like that. Like, we've always had toys that come to life, but not in a movie. And I love the fact that this is the first one. And I love the fact that this movie is very fresh, even after all these years watching it. The way the toys come to life and the way they function, the way that their will is towards the kid. Like, the only thing they want is to make the kid happy, and they want to be played with. And when they're not played with, it's sad. And whenever a new toy, in case of Woody, a new toy comes into Andy's room and then becomes the center of attention. So I love the fact that they use toys in a way where children drive their emotions. They drive the way that they feel. And that's the most important thing to a toy, which makes total sense because they're toys. And all these characters are incredibly memorable. Woody is played by Tom Hanks. Great casting. Incredibly memorable character who has never been second place in Andy's room until Buzz Lightyear comes along and takes over. And Woody becomes jealous, and he's the one who has one of the full story arcs in the movie, and Buzz has the other one. But Woody is this jealous character who never has been second place, and now is lost with Buzz, this delusional toy who thinks he's a real space ranger. So Woody changes throughout the movie and how he becomes more of a friend to Buzz and more of not just being the leader. And I really love that story, and it really is emotional and pays off very well. Buzz Lightyear as well is a great character because, again, he's this delusional toy who thinks he's a literal space ranger, and he looks at the world like he doesn't understand, but he feels like he does. He feels like he knows what's going on, like he knows what his mission is, to go stop Zurg. So I think that's really funny, and the jokes with that make it really great as well. And even though she's not in the movie a lot, and the same with part 2, Bo Peep is a good character too, and I like Annie Potts because Annie Potts just has a great voice, and she was a great person for this role for Bo Peep. I really like her voice, and they were originally going to have like Barbie as like a character instead of Bo Peep, but Mattel wouldn't let them have Barbie in this movie because, quote unquote, they didn't want to have Barbie in a movie where girls could only see Barbie as one characteristic as opposed to what they want to feel in characteristic. It's a weird thing because Barbie was brought in Toy Story 2 after this became so successful. But originally, Bo Peep was Barbie, and Barbie was originally going to have her Corvette get Woody and Buzz at the end of the movie to save them, as opposed to RC, the race car. So I thought that was funny that they have a lot of that backstory that is not in the movie, and it's fine because honestly, I really like Bo Peep, and it she is a one of a kind character as opposed to Barbie, who is in the other Toy Story movies, but she's more not one note, but she's more of Barbie. So it makes sense, and I do like the fact that Bo Peep is here instead. Even though that would have been interesting to see, like Barbie with a Corvette having Buzz and Woody drive it to get back into the van, moving van. That'd be really funny. And then I like other characters, like Rex is the scared dinosaur. You would think the opposite, like he'd be this intimidating dinosaur, but he's just a sweet little character who's scared and like is always nervous. And I really think that that is a funny play on what he looks like as opposed to what he should be. That's really funny. And Ham and Mr. Potato Head are great, smart aleck characters. They're really funny and they're still likable, but they're really funny as well. And they've got great banter with each other. And Slinky is a great little lovable like lackey to Woody in this movie. In the other movies he's not as much, but in this one he is. But he just seems like he's one of the oldest toys. It's because he just feels like with his voice, with Jim Varney doing the voice, it sounds like he's been through more than like the other toys. But I don't know. We never got backstory of that. Woody probably did too. Woody probably has encountered something as well before Andy, but we never get backstory on that, at least so far in the movies. But who knows? Maybe Toy Story 4 will tell us about that. And also, again, the use of toys in this world. It's so interesting to how they come to life and how they do things hidden around the humans. Like, whenever Andy has his party, all the toys are scared that they're going to have new toys take over. So the little green army men, the army men about this size, really cool that they're in this too. And they go and use a baby monitor, take it down into like a little plant on the ground down in the hallway, and have it record to where they're talking through the baby monitor to all the toys upstairs, saying what Andy's opening up and what he's getting. Again, I love how they use that. It's so cool. And just them like jumping off of the top of the stairs with their I forgot what the word is, but whenever they fly off and their packs come out of their back where like they float down. That's really cool. And I really, really love how the toys, just how they utilize this world. It's just so cool and so creative. And it really works in a very cool way. And I love how this movie is first and foremost about the relationship between Woody and Buzz. Again, Woody is this jealous character who was on top of the world, and then Andy starts loving Buzz as this new toy and becomes his favorite. But Buzz is delusional, so Woody uses that to try to almost purposefully kick Buzz out of Andy's room, and he does it on accident. But like, I really do love those moments between Woody and Buzz, and how Woody is just this jealousy gets the best of him and actually works really well. And it only happens whenever they get lost and are taken to Sid, the kid next door who tears apart toys. They have to work together to get back home next door before Andy moves away. And I love how there's that timer of like they're gonna move away as well, so they have to go right now. They have to get home, but they have to learn their differences from each other. And become friends. And it really works very well. And also, again, like I like how Woody is a character that is likable, but he can be unlikable. He can be a character that he can turn he can turn really quick in a way where it's really hard for like with Buzz, like he's not even thinking about jealousy. He doesn't care. He wants to go find Zurg in his mind. So Woody does everything he can to try to get rid of Buzz, but whenever he tries to and it actually happens, you actually feel like Woody actually made a mistake. And I love that they do that, because there was originally a cut of this that was storyboarded where all these characters were really unlikable and really harsh. And it wasn't like this, but it was way more cruel and you wouldn't have felt sympathy for these characters. And it's on like the Blu-ray for the first one, where like it's called Black Friday, the Toy Story you never saw, where like it shows like the scene of Buzz getting thrown out, but like out the window. But like everybody is so unlikable in that, and you can tell there's a little bit of that in this, but they make Woody sympathetic because even though he does something wrong, he realizes he did something wrong and feels bad for it. He knows immediately that he makes a mistake whenever he accidentally gets Buzz thrown out the window. Now, again, Buzz Lightyear, I love how he just doesn't understand how the world works. And there is a scene that just gets me that is so, like, every time I watch it, it's just so hard to watch because Buzz throughout the movie thinks he's a space ranger, and then he realizes that he's a toy. He goes, like, he's in Sid's house with Woody, and like he finds on TV a commercial for Buzz Lightyear that was just released, and he sees that he is a toy, and the song that Randy Newman sings during this moment is really sad and heartbreaking too. That Buzz walks out, he looks up to the window and stands on the top of the staircase and like looks at the window and says, and he doesn't say anything, but the look of determination on his face is, I'm gonna fly out. He jumps, he flies for just a second, and then he falls. He literally falls down all these stairs, falls down on the ground, breaks his arm off, and then just sits there, and it zooms out where all the other shots in the movie before were Buzz on close-up, like he feels like he's more than just a toy, and then it zooms out whenever he breaks his arm like he's just a toy, and he realized that, and it's played like that for the audience now, and I think that's just so clever and so smart and so sad, because Buzz is such a likable character, and him just realizing the truth about what he is, he's a toy, he doesn't, like, it's so heartbreaking to watch. And just Tim Allen just is a great choice. I really love Tim Allen. Like, he's a great comedic actor. Like, and he really works in this movie. And I'm glad that he's in it. Billy Crystal was gonna maybe be in this. Like, he auditioned for it, which would have been a good choice too. But I really, really like Tim Allen. Also, I forgot to mention earlier the Squeeze Toy aliens. I want to mention them because they are just so memorable. Where they're these little green aliens that they encounter at Pizza Planet, and like they like Buzz are delusional, where they think that the claw, because they're in a claw machine, they think that the claw is something that will take them off to a better place, a heavenly place. And I think that is really funny. Like, they treat the claw like it's their god, which makes sense because they're toys in a crane machine. I just think that's so hilarious that they just look at it like it's God. And I love the jokes like that. And the writing in this is very well done. And also, like, Joss Whedon wrote some of this too. And there were a lot of big people involved in the writing and directing of this. It's really surprising how many people are involved that are gone on to bigger things than this. Even though this is a big movie, of course. It's one of the best animated movies ever by a lot of people's opinions. And I also love the fact that this movie, while the animation is fantastic, I love how it's very colorful and beautiful, but whenever you go to Sid's house, the colors are very much tinted to where it's very creepy, very effective, and I like how they go that route. They don't just make this a happy-looking movie throughout. They wanted to make this more than just, oh, it's a happy little movie, everybody's happy. Like, I like how they went, and it surprised me. Or it still surprises me, because I've seen this since I was a kid, but it surprises me still. But towards the end of the movie, I love the fact right before, when Buzz has the rocket strapped to him and Sid falls asleep, him and Woody are talking, and Buzz is depressed because he realizes that he's just a toy, and Woody, trapped underneath this milk crate, is sitting there talking next to him. And Buzz is saying to him, like, but like, you were right the whole time, like, I'm not a space ranger, I'm just a little insignificant toy. And then Woody says that it doesn't matter, and he says that you're you're the coolest toy, like any kid would want you. And I love that moment because Woody is finally telling Buzz like how cool he is. And then this line, like, is so hard to, like, because the voice acting is so fantastic in this scene, but I love when Woody says, after he says that Buzz is such a cool toy, and he of course wants him, he says, as a matter of fact, you're too cool. I mean, what kind of chance does a toy like me have against a Buzz Lightyear action figure? I mean, all I can do is, and then he pulls his pull string, and it says there's a snake in my boot, and then he just says, "Why would Andy ever want to play with me?" And like Woody says that, and it's just such a sad moment because it leads to just them both learning their differences and realizing what they like. They Andy needs them both, and it's just such a sad but really effective moment. And I really love that scene. It's just such an emotional moment. And this movie is not as emotional as 2 and 3, but this one just, it still is heartbreaking in a lot of moments because you feel for these little toys so much. And I know I grew up with this, but I feel like even people who didn't, because this movie is so critically praised, that people understood and felt the emotions of all these things, even if you were a kid or not. Because I was a kid whenever I saw this for the first time, of course. So I really love that moment, and I love the ending. The ending is such a fantastic thing, where like it starts out where they're in Sid's house, and Woody gets all of Sid's deformed toys, which are really creepy, but you realize they're good. He gets them all to hatch a plan to scare Sid out in the backyard before he lights Buzz in a rocket and blows him up. And I love that moment. I love the fact that they go there where these toys are not allowed, of course, to tell anybody that they're alive because people would think they're insane that toys are alive. But they do it to Sid. Woody does it to Sid because Sid's about to destroy Buzz. And apparently Sid's alright because he's got that Toy Story 3 cameo as a trash guy. He seems like he's fine. But I love that moment where Woody's talking through him to his voice box, and then like Woody actually comes alive and says something to him, like says to be nice. And then Sid freaks out and runs away. But that's just such a great way of overcoming the villain. And he's not really a villain for like a human because he's just a kid who like destroys toys. But these toys that are alive, yeah, it's dangerous to them. But I love whenever they stand up to Sid, all of them. And then we get one of the best climaxes in any movie I've ever seen. Like it blows me away with what they do with this. And they're having chases like this in like stop motion movies. Like they did it in Wallace and Gromit. I forgot which one it was. But the Wallace and Gromit things that came out before this, they had one kind of chase scene which is similar to this. And I don't remember it that well, but I know this one I like more. But there's this chase where like Andy and his family are about to leave. Him and his mom and Molly are driving away. Woody gets on the car while it's starting up, or the van, and then Buzz can't get out of the fence because this rocket's stuck. And then he says, "You go, I'll catch up." And then you have Woody on the car, debating for a second, and then gets down and gets Buzz, and then the car drives off. And I love how that builds that character development that Woody has gone through so much that now he wants to go and save Buzz before they go back to Andy. Like, he isn't the jealous character anymore. And it's just such a great moment where he just gets off the car, gets off the van and gives Buzz. And then, of course, the moving van comes up, and I love the fact that they get chased by Sid's dog, Scud, who chases them, but they get up there, and while Woody, like, Buzz gets left behind, and then Woody goes in, and they all don't believe Woody because they think he killed Buzz from earlier, as he had his hand out on the window earlier in the movie. But I love that moment where Woody grabs RC and all the toys are thinking like he's gonna kill RC now because like he throws RC off, but he grabs Buzz to get on RC. And I just love that whole chase scene of like Woody gets thrown out too, and Buzz and Woody are both on RC racing to get to that moving van, and it is just such a great, incredible action scene. And you get this incredible moment where like they've still got a match and they're gonna light the rocket because that's the only way to get there, and the match goes out and Woody just sits down on the ground, and then Buzz's reflection in his helmet causes it to heat up to where they light it up, and they literally light up the rocket while on RC. It flies to where they start lifting up. They throw the RC car into the moving van, and it smashes Mr. Potato Head, which is a great, funny moment. But then they fly in the air, and the musical score, the lines where Woody just screams, "This is the part where we blow up," and Buzz says, "Not today," and he opens up his wings, it cuts off the tape, the rocket blows up, they fall down, and start flying, literally flying, even though they're not supposed to. Like they're just toy. Like Buzz is just a toy, and that moment in the musical score of Woody, just Buzz holding on to Woody and Woody screaming, "Hey Buzz, you're flying!" He's like, "This isn't flying. This is falling with style." And the epic music score, it gives me chills every time. It's giving me chills just thinking about it. And they fly down into Andy's van in the front, and Andy reunites with them, and it's just such a great moment of like Andy getting the toys back, because he's had them lost since they were taken to Sid's house. So that action scene at the end is just incredible, and I love that action scene. It's one of the best action scenes ever in a movie. One of the most best in payoff of emotion for these characters. Just a beautiful, great ending, and I think the whole movie is just truly incredible. One of my absolute favorite movies ever. Love everything about it. Love the characters. Love everything they go through. Love the ending. The action is incredible. Love the sad moments where they don't pull punches for this movie that's for kids, where like Buzz realizes he's a toy, or Woody is jealous and like he does all these horrible things, but you feel for him. And I love how these characters, you feel the world for them. This is just truly one of the best ways to start full 3D animation. The first theatrical 3D film, computer animated film. It's just incredible. Toy Story is just one of my absolute favorite movies ever, and I cannot wait to talk about Toy Story 2 and 3. And I will review those next before Toy Story 4, but man, just the first one blows me away. Love the original Toy Story. So if you like this, check my links down below and tell me what you think about Toy Story. I know people have seen this movie. I know everybody loves this movie. Tell me down below what you think of this movie, and thank you guys again so much for watching.